Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the story of a sports legend, but this isn't a story that starts with a trophy. No, it starts in a doctor's office, with a diagnosis that should have ended his career before it even began. I mean, just look at this. It's an absolutely stark contrast. On one side, you have a little kid being told his own body is going to fail him. And on the other, you have the most decorated player in the entire history of football. So how on earth does that happen? This is a story that really makes you rethink what's possible. All right, so our story kicks off not on some legendary pitch, but in a doctor's office back in Rosario, Argentina. And it's right here that the first and maybe the biggest challenge of Lionel Messi's entire life shows up. And look, this wasn't just about being the small kid on the team. We're talking about growth hormone deficiency, a serious medical condition. It required expensive daily injections. Without that treatment, a career as a pro athlete, it was just not going to happen. So this diagnosis at age 11, it sets off a huge financial crisis. The treatment was about $900 a month, which was an absolute fortune for his family. And the local clubs in Argentina, even the huge ones, they just weren't willing to pay for it. So in a wild twist of fate, what looked like a total dead end in his home country actually ended up opening a door to Europe. Yeah, this whole medical crisis would lead to one of the most famous deals in the history of sports, a decision that completely changed everything, forever, for the entire Messi family. You see, this wasn't just a contract, it was a lifeline. FC Barcelona saw this incredible, once-in-a-generation talent and made a totally unprecedented commitment. They said they'd pay for every single cent of his expensive treatment if his family moved across the Atlantic. I mean, they were literally betting the future of their club on a child's health. And boy, did that bet pay off. In Barcelona, Messi didn't just, grow physically. He grew into a statistical monster, a player who would go on to completely rewrite the record books for the club. And honestly, for the entire sport. For almost 20 years, he was Barcelona. He scored an absolutely unbelievable 672 goals for the club. That's a record for a single team that, let's be real, is probably never going to be broken. And if you want to understand just how absurd his peak was, just look at the year 2012. The man scored 91 official goals in one calendar year. 91. That number sounds more like something you'd see in a video game, not in real life. His excellence was just so consistent year after year. The Ballon d'Or, that's the award for the best player in the world, he's won it 8 times. 8. Nobody else in history is even in the same conversation. And his relationship with his manager, Pep Guardiola, was like a tactical marriage made in heaven. Guardiola was the genius who unleashed Messi in this innovative false nine position, a move that basically redefined modern soccer and led to one of the most dominant eras for any club ever. And to really put his individual dominance into perspective, just look at this chart. He played in an era defined by his rivalry with the phenomenal Cristiano Ronaldo, an all-time great in his own right, and Messi still managed to create this huge gap in winning the ultimate individual prize. But for all the glory, for all the trophies in Barcelona, there was this shadow, a really heavy burden that he carried every single time he put on that blue and white striped jersey for his home country, Argentina. It's crazy to think, but despite being the best player on the planet, a lot of people back in Argentina felt like he wasn't really one of them. They'd say he left too young, that he didn't sing the national anthem with enough passion, but really, it came down to one thing. He hadn't delivered a major trophy for his country. His legacy just felt incomplete. And the heartbreak was just immense. 3 major finals lost in 3 years straight. It was a period of such intense pain, but it also set the stage for one of the greatest redemption arcs in sports history, finally culminating with the Copa America and, the biggest prize of them all. His performance at the 2022 World Cup was, it was the stuff of legends. He didn't just win it, he totally dominated. He became the first player in history to score in the group stage, the round of 16, the quarterfinals, the semis, and the final. He silenced every single last doubt anyone ever had. So, after conquering Europe and the entire world, what's next? Well, his next move wasn't just about choosing a new team. It was about building a whole new empire. And this time, it was as much about business as it was about soccer. The way his deal with Inter Miami is structured, It's not just a contract, it's a complete game changer for how athletes get paid. It's not just a salary. No, he gets a cut of Apple's streaming revenue, he gets a piece of Adidas's profits, and he even gets future ownership in the club. He's not just an employee anymore. He's a full-on business partner. And the impact? It was immediate and it was staggering. The club's projected yearly revenue more than tripled, jumping from around $60 million to over $200 million. They're calling it the Messi effect, and it has completely transformed the financial landscape of American soccer overnight. So, how do we wrap all of this up? When you look at the whole journey, from that doctor's office in Rosario to the boardrooms of Apple and Adidas, what is his ultimate legacy, really? Well, just from a numbers perspective, the argument for him being the greatest of all time is pretty much overwhelming. With every single major individual and team trophy now sitting in his cabinet, the statistical case, for a lot of people, is officially closed. And his story really comes full circle off the pitch. Because he remembers his own struggle, he started a foundation to help vulnerable kids get access to the healthcare and education they desperately need. His legacy is driven by the memory of that impossible diagnosis he got as a boy. And all of this leads us with one last, really fascinating question. For decades, we've measured greatness in goals and trophies. But has Lionel Messi created a brand new model? A blueprint where the ultimate achievement for an athlete isn't just winning the game anymore, but owning a piece of it too?